Now we'll discuss the distance, that means distance traveled. Distance means distance traveled. Distance traveled. Distance, whenever we will call distance now, it is always distance traveled. So distance traveled is the actual path length. That means the actual path followed by the length of the actual path followed by the body. This is the length of the actual path followed or traveled or traversed by the body. ये ध्यान रखिएगा, distance or distance traveled is the length of the actual path followed by the body. So here if we say you are moving from O to A, that time the displacement is OA as well as the distance is OA. So I'll just rub this. So during 0 to 5 seconds, displacement is 30 meter and distance traveled, later on I will write only distance, that is also 30 meter. When you move from during 10 seconds, 0 to 10 seconds, so displacement is 80 meter and distance is also 80 meter. If 0 to 15 seconds you find out, so displacement is 150 meter and distance is also 150 meter. So here you have seen that displacement is equal to distance. There is no difference. यहाँ से कोई difference नजर नहीं आ रहा. You don't find any difference here. Now we can take another example. Suppose you are going from A to B, it is 100 meter away, so your displacement is 100 meter and distance is also 100 meter, no issue. Now another example, there are two students, they are playing in a ground and they have said चलो B तक को चलते हैं. The first one moves like this, the x1 moves in this way, it is again 100 meter. So the displacement of x is 100 meter and distance is also 100 meter. And B says, यार मैं तो ऐसे नहीं जाऊंगा, मैं जरा मस्ती में जाऊंगा. जैसे आप साइकिल को लेके चलते हैं ना, ऐसे रोड पे नहीं जाना, आप ग्राउंड में कर लीजिए, अपने प्ले ग्राउंड में कर लीजिए, साइकिल कंपटीशन लगा लीजिए. ग्राउंड में इज सेफ, डोंट प्ले दिस इन बिजी रोड. सो ही मूव्स लाइक दिस and then turns to this, reaches to B. So this is y and this is x. So what is the displacement of the y? Is it equal to 100 meter or is it more than 100 meter? More than 100 meter. No. Remember, what is displacement? Change in position. Initially, x was at A and finally he was at B. So displacement was distance between the two positions, that is 100 meter. In case of y, Initially y was at A and finally he reached to B. So what is the change in his position again? It is again 100 meter. So displacement for y is also 100 meter. But what is the distance traveled by the x? X has moved only this path, and this path length is nothing but 100 meter. That's why the distance of x was 100 meter. What is the distance traveled by the y? He has not followed this path, he followed this path and that way. So if you just try to find out the length of this path, what do? You just put a thread or a rope along this and then just stretch it to this. So you will find it is, let us say, 180 meter. So the distance of y is 180 मीटर. इस पाथ की जो लेंथ है, the length of this path is 180 meter. That's why the distance traveled by the y is not 100 but 180 meter, because distance is the length of the actual path followed by the body. Remember it. And what was the displacement? It was the change in position, not the shortest distance. It was the change in position. Initially, y was at A and finally at B. So the change in position A and B is the distance between A and B, that is 100 meter. So here for y you have seen distance is greater than displacement, or you can say displacement is less than distance traveled. Distance means distance traveled. Now you can take another example. Suppose a child is asked to go to the market, which is 80 meter away from his house, and finding market closed, he just returned to his house. So what is his displacement? So displacement is change in position. Initially he was at A and finally he is at A. So there is no change in his position. So that is 0. But how much distance he has covered? He has covered going 80 meter and then returning 80 meter. So that time distance is equals to 80 plus 80, that is 160 meter. Whereas displacement you can say 80 positive here and here it is negative 80. So that is 80 plus minus of 80, that will go to 0 meter. And here it is 180 meter. So displacement is a vector quantity, number one. Second, distance is scalar quantity. And by definition, displacement is the change in position. As initial and final position are A, so there is no change in position, so there is 0. Whereas the distance is the actual path followed this, then he followed this path. So it was 80, then again 80. That's why 160 meter. Let us have one more example. That is, as I already told you, a boy wished to go his friend's house, which is as 250 meter away, to make some study together. But he remembered that he needs a book as well as a notebook. So he first went to the market, which is 200 meter away, and then his friend's house, which is 100 meter away from market. Then the displacement of the child is how much? Change in position. Initially he was at A and then finally at C. So what is the change in position? That means distance AC. So that is AC, that is 250 meter. And how much is the distance traveled? He has not moved this forward. He has not followed this path. He has followed this path and this path. So distance is nothing but AB plus BC, the path length, the actual path length. So that is 200 plus 100, that is 300 meter. एक बार फिर से दोबारा रिवाइज. The child wished to go to friend's house for study, but he remembered that he need a book and a notebook, so he went first to the market and then to his friend's house. So the displacement of child is AC because it is the change in position. The change initially position was A and final position is C. So this is the change in position, means distance between the two positions, that is distance AC. So that is 250 meter. As far as the distance is concerned, the distance is not followed, the path is not followed along this, but the path is followed along this. So the distance is the actual path followed, the length of this actual path followed. So length of this path. That is why due to the confusion, some are saying that it is the shortest distance, displacement is shortest distance, and this is the distance of the longest distance. ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता भाई. Position, displacement is the change in position, distance between the two positions, that is AC, and distance traveled is the actual path length. The actual path is AB and BC. So the sum of these two will be 300 meter. Now finally, suppose he returns back to the house. After returning to his house, what is displacement? Again, initial position was A and final position is again A. So there is no change in position. That means 0 meter displacement. Now distance traveled. That means distance. It is the actual path followed. Initially he followed this while going on, and returning he followed this path. So that is AB plus BC plus CA, that is 200 plus 100 plus 250, that is 550 meters. 200, 300 and 550 meters. So distance, now here we see that displacement is always less than or equal to distance, and displacement can be 0, is always greater than or equal to 0. Distance is never equal to 0, but distance is always greater than 0. So I think this is very clear. So we can just recapitulate. Displacement is the change in position in due course of time by a body, and distance is referred as distance traveled, and that is the length of the actual path followed by the body. जहां जहां वो जाएगा उन distances को sum करेंगे, तो that will be the distance traveled. और किस पोजीशन से किस पोजीशन पे जा रहा है, the distance between these two positions is the displacement.